First play of the game, we're going blind pig.
We're going to go blind pig.
Blind pig, yeah.
So I'm also a big fan of the blind pig action.
The only reason we're running this action now.
Hey, welcome back to the Blind Pig podcast. This is going to be a whole heap of fun. Normally we're recapping Super League basketball and talking about things that are happening in the British basketball landscape. But today is a little bit different. I've invited my friend, one of the best people I know in the British basketball world, Nathan Doyle, aka Brits Don't Jump, onto the podcast. And we're going to talk about everything today, Nath. This is going to be a real...
I can't wait. A jam-packed show.
You know, people keep telling me 15 minutes is not enough, Joe. We need you for more in our lives. We need you for an hour long just chewing the fat. So that's what this is going to be.
Who's been telling you that? Is that your wife saying that? Or?
Yeah. That's it, man. Get out of the house more often, Joe. Oh, dude. How are you, though? How's everything in your world? How is basketball life?
Oh, man, it's good. It's just so busy, isn't it? Like, you obviously go from Super League basketball, and you go to GB, you try and keep it with the great British team, and then you go to the women's side, and then obviously the college basketball at the minute is on, and it's March Madness, so that's starting before the NCAA tournament, and then you try and recap everything else, you try and keep up with everything, and it's just, I love it, don't get us wrong, I absolutely love it, but it's just madness, isn't it?
Dude, ultimately, like, consuming my life. Like, I think I've got, like, all of the notifications, like the push notifications on my iPad, where it's just like, this game is going live, this game is going live. And I still haven't worked out how to multi-screen properly. I need to do more with that. You know what I mean? Like
So I got used to it with the NFL and stuff, and the only way to do it is because I'm not good with technology, and if people haven't watched what I do, you can tell. So I physically need my TV screen here, I need my phone to the side of us, and then my laptop there. Like I don't know, like you say, multi-screen's impossible. I physically need more than one screen, or else it's not gonna work.
Dude, I need picture in picture. Oh man, but like you say, it's been massively busy. We're going to hopefully touch on all of that. Let's start with GB, because as we're recording now, GB have finished their international window with 2 losses to Italy. Obviously they lost by 36 points on Friday night, and then just 9 points on the Monday. GB overall, what did you think of the men's performance?
It was a tough one for me, because the first game, as soon as you hear Quinn Ellis isn't playing, you kind of don't expect as much creativity, as much spark, maybe that like touch of class, what he brings, which is something different. But they didn't really bring anything to the floor, and it sounds awful. But like Carl Wheatle led the way, obviously he had a good game in respects of scoring, but it felt like something was off. It felt like, you know, when you think of a Mark Stuttle Great Britain team, if there's something, and you've said it yourself, if there's something it's going to bring, it's going to be energy, it's going to be passion, and if they're not playing well, you know, they're going to fight. In that first game, I seen moments of fight, especially in the third quarter, but sometimes it felt like fighting for fighting's sake, whereas normally you see like tough exteriors, they pump the chest out, they're going to fight back, and it just, something felt off. I don't know what you thought of the performance, but for me it was just very, I don't know what it felt like, and I don't want to say this because they're obviously Great Britain and they want to wear the shirt, but at times it felt like it was more of a hindrance to be there during that first game.
Yeah, I'd agree, man. The Friday one was absolutely brutal. Like, especially when you think, like, you're at home in front of a sellout crowd of people who are there to cheer you on and to do well. And to start off the game going down 12-3 in that initial run, I think it just set the game up in a really negative space. And I think it's fair to criticise them in terms of there were lots of heads down. There was lots of kind of the body language on defense when they missed an assignment or they missed a rotation was off. I was really surprised at just how little fight there was on Friday night. And especially because it felt like the majority of people who played on Friday were there in the camp anyway. So
yeah,
like, they would have been working on things. They would have been more structured. So I think it's really telling how important Quinn Ellis is when, like, the Monday game, the offense looks better when Quinn hasn't even been in camp with them compared to the Friday game where they had like days to prepare and it still doesn't look right.
At the same time, it's quite worrying as well when you see that, because like we see Quinn's brilliant. Like, I love watching him play. If there's not many GB players you see that aren't just fundamental. He's got that bit extra where he can score, or if he needs to assist, he's going to do it. And I think he did. He had something like 19 points and 6 assists. And he did that. But on the Friday night, like I say, it was the workmanship that I was really disappointed by, and I think, especially as a Newcastle Eagles fan, I know what that arena can be like, and I know people have travelled up and down the country. you've got to inspire them. If you inspire them on a Friday night, they're going to get behind you. If you give something like that first run, like you say, where it was 12-3, we were lucky to have 3 points, really. There was nothing there to tell me we were going to get any more and break that run. And that's what you'll start to feel it in the crowd as well. And obviously we're just watching on I was watching on the TV.
Yeah, ditto.
And it was, you could feel it, and you just, that 12-3 run for me, that could have went on forever. That could have just went up to 24-5 or something ridiculous like that. Luckily they did break the cycle a little bit, and like we say, they fought back in the third quarter. But it's when you've got London Lions players there as well, have been so good, and they've got an identity. It didn't feel like that identity. Obviously it's a different coach, but it didn't feel like that transitioned into that game. And if anything, the London Lions players, for me, actually weren't the worst players on the court. There was various other ones where I was more disappointed in them, because you get excited for these GB games. They come from overseas, and you're like, right, this is our moment to see what they've been working on, because I'm not lucky enough to watch all the European games. Whereas London Lions, I do say that I avoid their games, and I stand by it. I do at times. But when I went to watch them, for instance, when they played Newcastle a couple of times, I went to watch them, and in person, they're fantastic to watch, because I don't think you see it on TV, how well coordinated they are and how smart they are on the court when they're not on the ball. I didn't see that for Team GB. There's something where you want someone just to grab it by the neck and just like take control and say, look, I play domestically in this country. I want to inspire these fans, because they don't get to see much, especially over the last few years. Didn't feel it, and I didn't see it at all.
Indeed, I know you're an Eagles fan as well, and we both rate Mark Stoutel quite a lot, but I think the same problems that GB had on Friday night are the same sort of problems that Newcastle Eagles have had all season. And a lot of it is on the offensive end, where Mark Stoutel, I think, wants to trust the team, give them a framework to kind of operate within, and then say, go and do it. But I don't think this is the team that you can do that with. Like, they just don't have the personnel, they don't have the skill set. And like, specifically, I'm really sorry. Like, I'm sure he's a nice guy, but Luke Nelson, what is he doing out there playing that many minutes? Like, he is a killer offensively. Just like,
and sometimes as well, I think Mark Stoutel likes to, because he does trust his players a lot, and that's something I like about him. I'm very much someone that, like, if they can earn your trust, maintain it and let them play. Like you see with Luke Nelson, sometimes I feel sorry for him, because I feel like, I think there's ability in there. I think he's a good player. Maybe not at the GB level, but I do think he's a good player. I think once your confidence is shot and you continue to give someone minutes, it only hinders them. Like, I like, when I used to play a sport and I was never very good, if I was having a bad game, I didn't want to keep playing. Like, I would obviously want to fight through it, but I wouldn't want to keep making bad passes and bad decisions, because once you're in your head, you're in your head. And it's sometimes feeling like Luke Nelson, he wants to make the play, but he's thinking too much about it. It's not natural. And that's what kills GB in the end. Obviously, it's not just him, but I agree with what you're saying.
yeah, I think we're probably at like a little bit of like a changing of guard moment, where like those old players, Luke Nelson, Miles Hessen, you know, they've been positive, and they've been obviously like the backbone of a GB squad through like 2 cycles, 3 cycles. But they're getting to that point now where you think there's a changing of a guard here. And obviously we had a couple of new people making their international debuts. Dean Williams stepped into kind of a GB jersey for the first time. Josh Adeji. And I thought both of them played really well. I thought, when you talk about, you know, positives to take, I thought especially Dean Williams, he just adds some versatility to this roster that it desperately needs. With like 3 traditional bigs, I just thought Dean Williams he played well and represented himself really well, I thought.
Yeah, I think that's one thing you're going to get from Dean Williams, is maybe it's not going to be emphatic and it's not going to be 30, 40 points, but it's going to be a good, decent performance. And that's someone you can trust, and that's someone maybe you should be given more of the minutes for. In terms of, like you're saying, the change in the guard, I think you're probably right. And we're in that kind of space in Team GB now where it feels like we need some of that youth to start coming through. And maybe that's where London Lions can help. Obviously, with the bigger budget, maybe they can go and attract more British younger players and start building a framework there. And this is just a team that has to be built around Quinn Ellis. Like, if you want inspiration, that's where it's going to come from. And like we're saying, the last few years, inspiration's been pretty hard to draw by. I know we had moments in Eurobasket. We did have moments. It still wasn't the best tournament. But you've seen something there, and then you just want to see that more consistently. But it seems like we are struggling with that consistency.
Yeah, for sure. And it puts us in a really interesting position, because I think you're right. Monday, awesome. Quinn was amazing, changes the whole dynamics of the team. I think people settled. They knew their role a lot more. So as a team now, 1-3, bottom of Group D in the FIBA World Cup Qualifiers. still a chance to qualify, but a lot is going to depend on the July window. And I'm really interested to see what happens in July because technically all the other basketball seasons should be done. And so on the table, there should be people like Amari Williams, Tosan, Cam Hildreth. Technically, those should be people that would say, I'm now available for GB. I suppose sitting here right now in March, what's your confidence level that those big name NBA G League guys are going to come in for GB?
I don't think there's any confidence, if I'm honest. I think especially with Amari Williams, where he's now on the brink of breaking into the Boston Celtics. Like, I think the other night he got like 1 minute, but he signed a contract now. So I think I think that is the problem with bigger British players. They've got to fight a bigger battle than maybe sometimes other European countries have got to because they've got such big professional leagues there. If they're not going to make it in the NBA, they can make it in Europe. Amari Williams is a genuine talent. To me, I watch him play, and he's not just a shot stopper. He's not someone that can just work in the paint, but he can assist. On a night, he could have potentially become a triple-double threat. I would love to see these guys come back. Tosin especially. I love Tosin. I want him to start getting his chance, but obviously he's very much a journeyman in the NBA at the minute. But with Amari, he's a genuine, stunning talent, I think. I think he can really become a difference maker, but it's not just... If you're going to bring these guys in who are signing contracts in the NBA, obviously Tosin's still trying to find himself a settled club. And he has good performances last year for Brooklyn when they were poor at the end of the year. He was putting in some good shifts. But the problem is he's putting in shifts at teams that are terrible and are in transition. So he's still trying to find his place. Amari's kind of one where the Boston Celtics are looking for that big. Mm-hmm. They've obviously got Quater in there now who's playing well, but Amari Williams still has a chance to make a difference. They've moved on from Porzingis. They want that guy, and if he signed that contract, GB are going to have to pay him good money to get him out of there and make it worth his while. That money's not coming. We're not in the place to pay that money, I don't think.
Do you think that's what would happen? They'd have to pay money to get Amari to come out?
That would be the only way I would imagine you can convince him, because if he's on a multi-million, because what is it now, his deal? Like a veteran minimum in the NBA. No, that's a veteran minimum, so obviously it's not his contract. But that's like $3 million. So you've got to think his contract's got to be a couple of million. So are you risking that as a person? Like, if you're not going to be compensated properly, I wouldn't personally, because I know you want to play a sport and you want to represent your country. But he doesn't just want to represent his country. He wants to become a real NBA player, and it only takes one moment on an NBA court, on a court for GB, to ruin that, derail it, and then he's not just lost his career, he's lost a financial backend that would have changed his life. So for me, I would imagine these guys would be demanding some kind of... I would like to think not, but I imagine they've got to be compensated in some way, and I don't know, and I imagine insurance policies and stuff aren't going to cover how much his hands and legs are worth at the minute.
Hey, you get a free jersey and some hoodies.
That's it. You get to play in Newcastle on a Friday night, what else could you want?
Oh, dear. Okay, let me give you the flip side there, right? Because the flip side is, if they do it, it will be a stage for them to really perform. It might be the thing that takes them from, I'm in the G League, and Amari Williams especially is doing absolutely insane with Maine. Night in, night out. But it might be the thing that takes him from, okay, this is somebody who's great in the G League, hasn't cracked the rotation. You go to a FIBA World Cup Qualifier, you dominate there, you show something, and that's what convinces the Celtics to take more of a shot on you, more of a flyer. I think if you're Cam Hildreth, definitely. Like, I'm not quite sure what it's like in the Novishville Blooms, whatever it's called. Like,
never even heard of them, to be honest.
Yeah, like Indiana Pacers. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'd be really surprised if they called you up next year when Tyrese Halliburton comes back. Like,
yeah,
you can't wait for the team. You need to showcase what you're doing, and GB would give them a platform to be the guys. Do you know what I mean? Like, we will run it through you. I think it's a real opportunity missed in some ways if they don't put on the Union Jack.
I think with Cam, you've got a bigger argument in that case. Like I say with Tosin, he's really trying to find his place. In Cam, it's a tough one because, like you say, the Pacers, if Halliburton comes back half fit, he's not getting a chance. And then you've got to think they've also got a good lottery pick this year. And that backcourt class in the NCAA is ridiculous. Like, they could go up to pick 20 or 30 and still find themselves a bigger talent to go alongside him. And this is no disrespect to Cam, but this is a generational class. So that is something, that's where you could have an argument with him, I think, because firstly, you've got to be on a basketball court to prove yourself. He's not really getting that in Indiana. So yeah, I think that's maybe where you'll have an argument, and for someone like him, maybe the compensation isn't much of an issue because he wants to find his place somewhere. With the other two, I can't say that. Maybe Tosin is the closest one, but with Amari, I just think, let's say we're seeing how talented he is, and it's a shame though because them are the players you need in to excite. Like if you could have Quinn Ellis and Amari Williams in a team, if you just name them two, and that's a big chunk of your minutes, that's a good team. Not only is it a good pick and roll team, it's a good defensive team, it's a good playmaking team. You've got 3-point shooters there. If you bring Tosin in, the floor spacing just automatically opens up, and it's so much better. And then Amari, if he's got to go to work on the defensive end, he can. If he's got to work in the paint, he can. Quinn Ellis can help create. So that's what. And then you bring in the kinds of Dean Williams and you supplement players like that, and that's when it starts to work. But that's the frustration with it, I think. But if the money was there and it would compensate them, I think Team GB is a totally different outlook. And I think you'd see us climb the rankings. It wouldn't be amazing, let's face it. Every country in the world has these kind of players, but it would be better and it would be more inspiring.
We don't need amazing, do we? We just need more competent, more consistent. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, we're talking about the qualifiers. Like, we're not talking about, we need you guys to show up for like the Olympics or something like that, where they might be more tempted. But it's still important. Those games are still important. And July especially, right? So I think the only way the men now qualify is by beating Iceland and by beating... So there are a couple of scenarios. The most obvious scenario is that GB beat Iceland and Iceland lose both their games. And as a result, we beat Iceland on the head-to-head and we advance. And Iceland's someone we've already beaten. Yeah. Like, that should be realistic. I'm saying that and I feel nervous because I'm like, holy crap, we might not be able to beat Iceland.
That's the problem, though, because you've just mentioned consistency. Like, what you're saying, in theory, we should beat Iceland. And maybe that's disrespectful to Iceland. I don't care. We should beat Iceland. But you're right. What GB is going to turn up on the day. I would have fancied us in a closer game against Italy. Not maybe winning, but a closer game on Friday night. But then you get blown out. So what team are you going to have turn up?
Yeah. Hard to tell. We'll be there, though. Whenever it is, we'll be backing them. We'll be riding them. They're not the only team, though, that's playing, the GB team. The women also have their international window coming up. And they're in a much different position to the men. They've already won 2, lost 1. They've got 3 games coming up. 2 of them are going to be at home against Norway and, I want to say Switzerland.
No, I think they travel to Switzerland. Yeah, Austria. And then I think they travel to Switzerland, maybe.
Totally different this side. I think the women have this on lock. I think this should be 2 easy wins, right?
I think it depends. Again, you just got to hope everyone turns up in that window. I think Temi Fag-Banley, if she turns up, which I imagine she would, because I think Unrivalled's about to finish. They're going to the championship game, and I believe her team's already out. And then you need the kinds of Holly Winterburn, Sam Ashby. And then obviously, I think Georgia Gale was back in the fold, but then you've had the change in coach, so I'm not quite sure. I imagine she'll be selected, so that's another backcourt option for them. So the women's team, again, in theory, is in good shape, but I think all the turmoil surrounding it, which I'm sure we will touch on, again, that's where the problems lie with Team GB.
Yeah. I think if you look at TV just from like a talent perspective, if everyone's there, they're somebody who should make a deep run in the World Cup. Do you know what I mean? Like the quality of player, and you named just some of them that are really out there. Again, the expectations should just be so much higher. It's the off-court stuff that's potentially holding them back. And you mentioned there about the coaches. And let's just talk first about Stella Kaltsidou, obviously choosing to step down. She released a really interesting conversation where she talked about her time at GB and what happened. Some of the biggest takeaways, let's link it into Temi. She said there was no money to bring players back from America to the UK to play their games. How?
Do you know what's more worrying about that as well? Is the fact America at the minute in the WNBA, they've got the collective bargaining agreement, which they've nearly sorted. They technically don't have anything set in stone yet, so to not have the money to bring them back is really worrying, because as it stands, they don't have they will. They're pretty close. I think it's just the structure of the pay now they're working out in the WNBA. But when she resigned, they had nothing. Like, they weren't even close. Like, the WNBA weren't even responding to proposals. So to say that, I think it's worrying. Like you say, the statement was obviously her stepping down so quickly.
Yeah,
was quite worrying. The the statement that basically said they're no further forward, if not further back than 2012, I think it was, or 2019 then, 2012 she mentioned. That's damning. Like, that's really worrying. And I know, like, they've obviously inherited a bit of a mess anyway in general. Yeah. It's crazy to me that that's even a statement that's come out. But I think when you've got someone of her caliber coming out and saying it, I think you really need to pop your head up and listen to what she's saying.
Yeah, dude. She's an absolute loss. World-class head coach in the women's game. Like, just sat there, someone who's been in London, who understands the culture, understands the players. To let that slip after she's only been there for 4 months, like, just shooting itself in the foot again.
And I know, especially the way, like, obviously with the London Lions winning the Euro Cup with Temi there, and I'm a huge fan. I can't even tell you. I watched the Golden State Valkyries so many times last year for Temi, and it's nice she's finally found a home, like, over there. But when she comes to Team GB, even when she's playing well in the W, she's a different animal. Like, she's putting up points, she's grabbing boards, she's doing the work for the kinds of Holly Winterburn, and it's so good to watch. Like, she's such a good player. So when you've got a coach who's coached her before and got so much success out of her, you really want that to stay there, because that's a good foundation to build off. But to me, to lose someone of that caliber, it's gone from exciting now to a bit worrying. And Krumesh Patel, I imagine he's got a lot of experience as well, who's worked with Coach Stella. But obviously, I don't believe he's the long-term vision. I hope he is, and I hope he gets a good chance. But once you've given up a coach that would just have, it's just, you kind of start to get a bit worried, don't you?
Yeah. And we're moving absolutely into speculation. Like, I want to be honest, like, I've not got any evidence to, like, back this up. But I have to believe that when Stella stepped down, she was doing so knowing that they were going to pick Krumesh Patel. Like, if not, for you to step down and then for your assistant coach to take your job, like, you step down from a job on principle, you know, there's not the infrastructure, this isn't right, our players can't operate in this way. So for them to step down on principle and then your assistant coach to step into your shoes, and he's the assistant coach both domestically where they are in Greece and obviously was the assistant coach on the GB squad, like, they must have talked about that, or it's just become like the most uncomfortable work environment in the world. Like,
you wouldn't want to be on that phone call after if that's what happened. But yeah, it's just that it is a bit, like you say, it is speculation, but it's kind of crazy to think about, because it wasn't just Coach Stella that stepped down. It was and the general manager's name really does pass us by, and I apologise for that. I can't remember what his name was. That's terrible. But he stepped down as well, so that's not one person stepping down, it's two. So then, like you say, they've had a conversation. So to me, if them two have had a conversation, the coaching staff must have had a conversation, like, all together. So I don't know, either she's give the blessing and there's absolutely no animosity there. Maybe we are speculating too far, or maybe it's kind of one of them things where he's seen an opportunity for himself and he's jumped at it. It's just, like you say, we don't have enough evidence or anything to back up any claims, but it's just, it's a weird situation.
Yeah. I thought it was weird that Vanessa, and again, I don't know how much they had a look, how many conversations were happening, but when Vanessa Ellis comes out publicly in the Yorkshire Post to say, I will do this, I will lead the team in March, for you to turn around and say, no thanks Vanessa, we're okay, we're going to go with someone else. That is a bold statement to turn down the most successful British or BBL W, SLB W, whatever we want to say, coach in the history, to say, actually, no, we don't fancy you.
If I'm honest, it's not just bold, it's stupid, because what Vanessa Ellis represents isn't just a good coach. Betty Cardona, obviously being a mother, she's got so much history and legacy. For her not to be involved in the British basketball setup, and for her to offer her services publicly and you to say no, it's just, I can't think of another word other than stupid, because I think the inspiration she could bring to that set of players, and players she's worked with before and she's working with now, and she's not just a coach who's got experience, she's got winning experience. It's kind of one of them where you go, what are you doing? Yeah. Because if you're looking for a coach, what are the things you want? It is experience, it's knowledge of the game. It's not just knowledge of the game, but she's got a knowledge of the players who are on that squad. She's got winning experience. So to me, it's like you're looking at a list, you're checking them off. You've just ticked every box and you actually go, maybe not. I don't fancy it anymore. It's nuts. I don't agree with it. It should have been, for me, Vanessa Ellis. But we are just two people talking on a podcast, so what do we know?
We know everything, Nathan. Like, Basketball England, my number is 07. Oh man, the women's game is really taking off. Let's talk a little bit SLB W for a little bit, if that's cool with you. Like, and let's go like top and bottom, and let's start at the bottom. Cardiff met Archers, 0-12. Are they going to get a win this season?
Do you know what it is with Cardiff? And I'm trying to find the words to not be disrespectful, because it's kind of what they are. It's kind of a team that's foundationally going to, because they're not a professional team.
University team, yeah.
They're a university team, and what they do, I love. It's giving players a chance on the professional game to get experience. And, you know, some of them players are thriving in there. But the problem is, to win a game, you need a lot coming off the bench. You can't be just the odd player, like scoring 19, 20 points. You need a collective effort. And it's because the young women trying to find the way in the game. And, like, if you're not going to, like, obviously their funding isn't professional. Mm-hmm. So they're not just training, the work and jobs. They're obviously doing the courses in college and university and whatnot. But for me, the problem is you find in teams like Nottingham Wildcats, they're finding a bit form. Leicester Riders with the kinds of Jada Holland, they've got like a spark there that Cardiff might have a little spark, but I don't know if it's enough to win a game. And I've enjoyed watching Cardiff when it's down the bottom end of the table where it's them teams matching up.
Yep.
But it's just too tall of a task to take on the top teams. So I don't know who the next few games are, but I can't see them grabbing maybe one win. I'd like to give them one because I think they deserve it, because the effort they put in is outstanding. Sure. The way they work in the game, they don't stop. No matter what the score is, they're drawing up players, they're still trying, they're getting away shots. I want to pronounce the name right, but Flosia, I'm very bad at pronunciation, so apologies out there. She's a fantastic player, and I think she'll definitely rise up the league a little bit. But like it's a very tall task for what they've got to take on to bridge that gap.
Yeah, I agree, and I think you called it out well there. Like, it's a university team. What's their expectation? How have they done compared to that? And you're probably looking more for like growth, togetherness. Are we providing a good opportunity for these people to both get a quality education supported by the university whilst also playing? And what does that look like? So in terms of like what your expectation might be, I think it kind of aligns a little bit. I think what's interesting though is I think the playoffs are pretty much set now. I think with Nottingham picking up the 2 wins over the Leicester Riders, I think that means on the head-to-head, it's going to be really hard for Leicester to get into the playoffs.
Yeah. Do you know what it is? And I really enjoy watching Leicester as well. But yeah, I think you're right. I think Nottingham have because of the head-to-heads. And you know, they've been really good fun to watch of late. Like they've obviously not played the top teams, but they've been picking up wins, and it's been really impressive. So, but I think you're right. I think I'd be surprised if the playoff picture changed. But I kind of want Nottingham to get in there regardless.
100%, bro. Joanna Langburn.
She's having a great couple of weeks in chat.
Yeah, it's just where you want to sit, isn't it? It's kind of, I don't think anyone wants to sit in that 8th spot where the London Lions are right now. Like, you know, having to face Sheffield Hatters in the first round, I think is not a task that anyone is particularly eyeing up and wants to take on that particular task.
Well, I think it's both, isn't it? Because you've obviously got the Hatters 1, Caledonia 2. The Hatters are getting the best of Caledonia, which mentally it's going to cripple them when it comes to the final. But you're right. I think London's 7th, aren't they? I think they're 7th, so they'll take on Caledonia. Nottingham will take on the Hatters at the minute, but I think they maybe have the same on. I think they've got the same wins, but maybe London have played less games. I think by 1.
There is a London-Nottingham game, I'm sure, in April. Maybe like the penultimate game of the season that might decide who's in 7th and who's in 8th.
You've got to take 7th because Caledonia are so talented. We've seen it. They've got the players there, like Tierra Hodges, Anastasia Warren. Like they've got the players there, but Sheffield are deep. Like they've got such a deep squad, and now they've obviously got Mullins, who's just in tremendous form. Gale's finding a way. Edgeworth Yates is kind of a carbon copy of Georgia, the way she passes the ball. You just see that bounce pass they do, and it splits defences. To beat them, it's going to take a lot, so you don't want to be the first team in the playoffs playing them, I don't think.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the Sheffield Hatters then. Obviously, beat, like you say, Caledonia 3 times in February, and pretty convincing, I'd say, all 3 times. The last one was probably where Caledonia had like the most success against the Hatters, but even then it probably wasn't enough to make me think that that they could do it in like a tight finals or playoff picture. But I suppose the Hatters, how realistic do you think the quad is for them at this point?
I think, well, Mullins said it at the end of the Betty Cardona final, like that is their aim. They can celebrate one, but they expect to win four. But when the season started, I didn't see a group that was going to win four. I thought they were good enough and deep enough to win a couple. Mm-hmm. But the way they've picked up momentum is just crazy. Like, and after that cup final win, it just seems like a screws turned because it was such a good game in the final, but you're seeing Hatter's experience kind of came out more, and especially in the third and fourth quarter, they really found out how to manage that game, and Mullins she was unplayable when she's in that kind of mood, and Hodges didn't even get a sniff for Caledonia, like she couldn't get anywhere near. But now you're starting to really see them like turn the screw even more, where you've mentioned like, well, the three top teams, well, the Eagles aren't, but they've got some really good players like Andrea Daly there. They've beat them comfortably a couple of times this season. They've took on the Essex Rebels, who are climbing and such a good team to watch. They're a breeze when they're on the ball. Defeated them quite simply, and then Caledonia again at the weekend. Like you said, Caledonia had some success. I thought they were actually going to take it after the first couple of quarters. Mm-hmm. But then again, Sheffield just know how to win, and it feels like they've got that mental hold on everything now. So I think they'll be disappointed if they don't win 4.
Yeah, I think so too. And you know what sucks? I took a lot of flack because I put out a video recently about like don't support favourites, like don't back London, and I stand by
I can support that.
But the thing is now I've got to eat my own words. Going into the cup final, you can't support Sheffield really. Like if I'm being true to myself, if I'm not supporting the favourite, you have to back the underdog. In the upcoming matchup between the Hatters and Manchester Basketball on March 22nd in the SLB W Cup final, this really is like evil overlord Sheffield Hatters with all the power, all the talent, all the stuff against this insane Manchester Basketball team that's on a really good run of form actually through like the last 5 games. Do you rate their chances in the SLB Cup? Or do you think this is
not particularly, and it's not a downer on Manchester. I just think when you look at the depth, what can you do against that Sheffield team? Matchups are so important, and when Mullins is on a game, when Georgia Gale's on a game, Antoinette Lewis has been lately, oh my God, she's been on stunning form. Like, she can't be stopped in and out of the paint. So, and defensively, she's been brilliant. Like I say, she's been putting up points. It's pretty hard to stop a team like that, where it's very much like London in the men's game. You bring off one option, then who's going to come? But Manchester do have the players. I wrote about it lately. Franny Hottinger is really she's a good scorer. She's not the same as, because they obviously lost the MVP last year, Danny Williams. They lost her, who could hit a 3 occasionally but do a lot of her work inside. Hottinger's kind of one of them who's going to do the work inside. That's where she's going to be like doing most of her damage. The problem is she's kind of really hard to stop there, even though you know what she's doing. She's going to hit it from the mid-range. She's going to really get physical and get under the basket. So she's there. One of the hopes. You've obviously got Madja Bracker as well, who's also been fantastic. That's a duo you've really got to watch, I think, because if they can get comfortable and start putting up points, that's when you might see a comeback. But you've got to hope they stay, and we've said it in similar finals before when we talked on the last podcast, you've got to hope they keep it close for 3 quarters, because if Sheffield start to run away in the first, run away in the second, Manchester's heads drop. And not only that, they've got the experience and depth in Sheffield to kind of keep it over the line. I don't know what your thoughts are, but I hope they did. Like, I really like the Hatters as an organisation. I get along well. Like, I've spoken to a few people in there who are great and are fantastic, and they've been really helpful. But in this case, I always root for an underdog. I'm a sucker for an underdog, and to see Manchester lift it would be fantastic.
Yeah, and I think you're right. When you match them up player for player, Sheffield win this every time. The only thing you've got to ask yourself is how much is momentum, is energy of being in Manchester with a Manchester crowd behind them really going to play a factor? And especially if they can come out first and hit Sheffield in the mouth and really, like you say, establish I don't even think it has to be a lot. If Manchester carried a 7-point lead into halftime, I think then you have a close game in the second half. If they can do something miraculous like that to kick it off, and the crowd there and the energy is there, anything can happen in 20 minutes in the second half. It really could swing for them. The other storyline I'm really watching, and I really, really hope that both Kaz and Jason Swain are on the call for the women's game in the final. Because Kaz on that call, that semi-final win that Manchester had, mate, she was so excited that Manchester were going to the finals. Like, you can feel it.
Yeah, but you've kind of got to be, because I think with Caledonia and Sheffield matching up in the semi-finals, it was an opportunity for a club like Manchester to go through all the way. And that's, when you look at it realistically, that's their one chance, because obviously playoffs are one-off games, but again, Sheffield and Caledonia are going to, because of their seeding, you're going to expect them to go far. This cup worked out well for Manchester. Like, they had an opportunity, and the opportunity's there, but you've also got to take it. And they were very much the underdog in the semi-finals, but they managed it, and now they're there. And why wouldn't you be excited in a one-off game? You've got to hope, you've got to dream. Dreams are sometimes silly, but it's a cup game. Why not? Like you say, the Manchester crowd, you've got to hope they turn up early and they come and watch the game. And I mean, I think it's going to have to be more than a 7. I understand. I get where you're coming from with a 7-point lead. Maybe Sheffield will still be comfortable with that. And I think Vanessa Ellis has definitely got the experience to be comfortable to be down by 7 points. But I think you've got to hope it's there to keep competitive and keep, like you say, because people are going to be coming in for the men's game as well, and they're going to be getting excited for that. So if they see the women's team, acting out and really upsetting the Giants, then it's going to be a cracking experience for everyone involved, I think.
Yeah. And I think the 7 points is more for the belief in the Manchester team.
Yeah, 100%.
They're 7 points up. They believe they can do it. The attendance, I was at the trophy final, and it was a really good day. It was a really, really good day. Again, though, I was just disappointed that people didn't come to the women's game to start with.
Well, this is something, but at the same, I think you should, because you've paid for the day.
For sure.
Like, you're not paying for a match, you're paying for the day and the experiences. And I think the problem is, though, is that if people haven't watched the women's game, I think too many people are, especially in this country, they're too influenced by everything they hear rather than what they see. Mm-hmm. So if someone tells you the women's game's slow and boring and dull, you're going to go, all right, because don't get me wrong, and I'm going to admit it, 5-6 years ago, I kind of took that with the WSL. I believed what people were saying. But then I'd go watch Man City and Arsenal play and eke out a 0-0 draw and then be happy with that. And that's when you actually start to watch the game and take it in. And you're like, it is physical, it's fast. They might not slam dunk, but they've got the technical ability to match. Sure. And it's enjoyable. And we're seeing which one was the better final. It was Caledonia and it was Sheffield. It was end-to-end. London ended up, Newcastle brought it back in the final quarter and it was exciting, but we lost. And it was always going to be that way, whereas the head-to-head matchup was exciting. So and this is, and it's going to go off topic a bit, but the London Lions, you've seen that they're putting the women on at 3:30 on National Women's Team. I've went back and forwards on this. I'd love to hear your opinion, because I don't know if I'm just being negative. But you've got the men's on at 7:30, and there's nothing much you can do because the league schedules these games, right? So not only for your home team, for your away fans, you've got to be in touch. Mm-hmm. And at first I was like, oh, that's good. The women are playing the Cotter Box. When you think about it, they've put them on at 3:30. There's been no announcement and I'm sure they will announce it, if you can leave for food. It just seems more like a token gesture rather than, like wanting to help the women's team. Do you get what I'm saying? Because it's great that they're putting them out there for it, but 3:30, is it on a Thursday or a Friday? People work, people are at school. And I get the kind of hands are tied at what time, because I'm not saying they should swap the games around the men's, because it's just not going to happen that way. But at times you feel like there's got to be a better way to help, because it just feels like you're doing it to make a show of it. Yeah. Whereas, because if you're putting them on at and I love, and this is why I go back and forwards on it, because I'm like, well, at the same time, at least they're doing something. At least they're putting them out there. And they're giving, obviously with the season ticket holders, they can come watch first. Yep. But then at the same time, I get frustrated, because I'm like, but what is it doing at 3:30? Obviously, it's more accessible, but 3:30 isn't a great time. So I don't know.
What day is it on? Is it a Thursday? I haven't even checked out what day is it on.
I don't know if I'm getting confused, because the Newcastle Eagles put on an event called The Big One where they try and sell out. Well, and I've just got me and my mother tickets for that, and that's on a Thursday.
I'll have thoughts about that afterwards, because I think that ties in. If it's on a Thursday, then it's not great, you're right. If it's on a Sunday, I don't think it's that dissimilar to what Sheffield do, where they put the Hatters and the Sharks on back-to-back.
It's definitely a weekday. It's not a Sunday, or else I think is it a Thursday or a Friday? It's one of the two anyway. But either way, because what Sheffield do is fantastic. Like, obviously, if it's on a Sunday, that works really well. And people probably will hang about because it's a Sunday and kids will... But that's a problem as well. if you're getting a kid there from 3:30 in London as well, like it's not.
Yeah.
I've never actually physically been to the Cotter Box, but I've been in and around it, and I can't imagine it's that easy to get a kid from school to the Cotter Box for 3:30.
Oh yeah, it's on Wednesday.
Well, Wednesday, there you
Wow.
go. It's just a rough day. Like, and don't. This is where, because at least they're trying something, but are they trying something for the sake of it? And it seems like I just beat on London, but it's not what I'm genuinely not trying to do it. But sometimes I think the gesture is good, but the execution isn't right.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think the fact that it's on a Wednesday, I know it's International Women's Day. Is it on the day of International Women's Day, or they're doing?
I think so. I think so. I mean, dates aren't great. I'm not great at anything like that, but I think it is.
Why don't you automatically know when International Women's Day is? Yeah, at 3:30, you're not going to get a huge amount of people, even though it's London, and you could say, well, actually, the crowd might be a bit different in London than it is in kind of, in Nottingham, for example, or something like that. But yeah, I think 3:30 is not a great time. If you could have got that on a Saturday or Sunday, it would have made so much more sense. It would have been there for them. The part I do like is that you're giving both women's teams, and I think both women's teams, I know it's Caledonia and they play in a big stadium anyway, but you're giving them the opportunity to play on the show courts in that kind of big environment, big atmosphere. It can feel very dead though. Do you remember last season where they played at the Copper Box and some of their games, like there was like no one there, and it almost felt
but
awkward watching it.
That's kind of where I worry a bit, because it's not what's on the court. It's not great because they're still putting on the spectacle. But it's like you watch some of the college games, and if you're watching a college game, there's not much of a crowd. It's not because the talent's not on the court. It's just because obviously people couldn't turn up.
Yeah.
And that's what worries us, because I don't want people to get the wrong impression of what they're seeing. Like, London might not be the best team in the league, but they've got some fantastic players. Like Anika Shah she's really fine to see. Like, she puts up points, and she's a smaller guard, but she really gets in there and fights for it. So I don't want people to get it twisted that the game isn't as good because the atmosphere isn't as great.
Mm-hmm.
That's me thing. But again, it's one of them where they're actually doing something at least. So I don't want to be cynical because they're trying, and that's all I kind of ask. But then you just think, is the execution where it could be? But then this is the problem. Are you tying in with International Women's Day for the sake of it, or could you wait till the weekend and tie it in and go, it is what it's for, but it's at a better time and it makes more sense?
And I don't think there's many people who think it's International Women's Day, therefore I'm going to go watch the women to support them, or it's International Women's Day, so I get to choose what we do. We're going to go watch the women's basketball game. Like, I don't think that's in many people's kind of thought process.
Yeah.
I'm just really surprised that, and again, this came from the Stella interview. She was there when the Lions were at absolute peak. Do you know what I mean? When it was the women selling out the Copper Box. And it blows my mind that hasn't stayed, that there hasn't been more of the fandom that has stuck around with them through the slightly lower points and the high points as well. Like,
I think it's just pure because you've got to look at the players they lost. Like, Temi is just straight away, it's star power, like a domestic player who's got that ability, I guess. And plus, the men's team had such a budget injected into them, they kind of changed their trajectory. So maybe it was one of them where people wanted to focus. And it is a shame because I kind of made this point last year, because London didn't have they've improved a lot. Like, but I believe they finished rock bottom last year, so they have improved. But it's such a shame that a Euro Cup side can go from that, like, the top to the bottom so quickly. And it is just down to pure budgets. But again, I understand what finances are like in the world. But sometimes you think you've got such a opportunity in the capital city, be the hub of basketball, and we've seen what London's branding's excellent. We're seeing the stuff with the podcast now, and obviously the Cotter Box is fantastic. Even the men's team, even though I don't want to watch them, they are fantastic. I've seen them in person; they were brilliant. They've got a great head coach. The fan base, you see them now, they're bringing celebrities to game. Like, that's a hub, and that's where things take off. Like, look at darts, for instance, where you have one key player like Luke Littler, and obviously it's been building for years, but you've got Luke Littler who can excite, who can inspire. And don't get us wrong, darts is not a sport. I'm sick of people saying it. It's not a sport. Get a grip. And then
chase the sun.
But you need that to inspire. If you could have one women's team, and they did it though, they literally did it. They got a Euro Cup. Like, that's not an easy feat. In the women's game as well, you see the amount of good players from the W, because it's finished, their season is finished, are playing in Europe. That's not an easy thing to go and do. And they did it, they inspired, and then it dropped. And you're just like, if you could build on that success, if you could just inject a bit of your budget. Again, I'm no businessman, so I guess it's easy to say it when it's not your money. But I just think that was such an opportunity lost, and it's just a shame.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think ultimately where I'd land on it though is I would say whether it is a token gesture or it's a proper gesture, at least the London Lions are doing something. They're giving people the opportunity, and the emphasis is now on the fans for, are we going to be able to support it? Do you know what I mean? Like, the Lions have created the opportunity where people can come along, they can do it. The fans have to respond. If like thousands of people turned up to that game and said, you know, we're loving this, we're buzzing, we're here, we're into it, the London Lions would do more of that. Do you know what I mean? As an organisation.
Yeah.
If they get 50 people in the crowd, 50, 100, whatever, people in the crowds, then what's the incentive for the Lions as an organisation to keep making those gestures? I think the Newcastle one is even more interesting, though. I have mixed feelings about the big one, about this idea that one game a year, we're going to let them play on the show court, and we're going to show them how good it can be. But
I think, so the Newcastle Eagles women play there a lot. They play on, but the difference is with the Eagles women, so when you go and watch it, when it's not the big one, they open up different stands, so it's a lot smaller. There's not as many people there. And I think the idea with the big one is they open up the stands more than the court. But I'm kind of with you as well. You'd like to see that attendance, but this is the problem, right? Because you've got 2 men's games a week and a women's game. It's pretty hard, and this is where London come into it as well. It's pretty hard to make that promise all the time because you obviously, with London, the Cotter Box is such a big arena. You're paying staff, so like you say, you need to have that attendance there for it to happen to make that revenue.
Sure.
With the Newcastle one, the big one, I wish it was like that every week because the atmosphere at the big one, it's such a good idea. Like, it genuinely is such a good idea. But then it is disappointing when you go back the next week and it's not like that because you've got such a rush. Like, it's been such a good game. Like, they were the first team to beat Oaklands last year. Oaklands were unbeaten, and then on the big one at home, Newcastle beat them, and it was such a good day. And then you're like, right, let's go to the next game. And naturally, just people don't come back, and it's just like it is a bit disappointing that people don't, because you've just seen, like, last year we had Lauren Psyche, we had Jada Gwynn, we had Tiara Hodges, and it was such a good team, and it was a team that obviously they couldn't get ahead of the Hatters, but it was a really good team. And I'm with you, it's a great idea, but then it's the aftermath of that that's disappointing.
The ceiling can't be one game a year they'll play on the show court and we'll have a sellout crowd. That has to be, okay, we did that last year. What's the ceiling this year? Can we have 2 games? Can we have 3 games? Why don't we put them on there kind of consistently? I think, though, it talks to like a bigger problem that I think personally Super League basketball, both the men's and the women's game, is experiencing, with focusing so much on the weekends and this becoming like a weekend pastime. Like, there's only so many and I watch a lot of fucking basketball. I don't watch as much as you, but like, I watch a lot of basketball. The games, having like 8 games for the men, 8 games on the weekends, sandwiched between Friday and Sunday, is absolutely mental. Like, we've got to start getting to a point where we're having a few more midweek games and we can space this out a bit more. Like, I think
it would be worth testing, I suppose, because I suppose the thing is, does the attendance drop because of that? But until you try and you sample it in there, I guess you don't know.
And what? So from a club perspective, I understand your incentive is to maximise your attendance, because that's how you're bringing in revenue. People are coming, they're sitting in the seats, they're buying your foods. That's how you're generating money. But from a product standpoint and from a league standpoint, having games that run throughout the week as well, it allows you to have like a narrative that continues throughout the whole week. People continue to stay engaged. You continue to have highlights. Whereas I feel like what happens now is we have Friday and Sunday that are absolutely jam-packed. Like, everything's on the socials. There's loads and loads of stuff. Monday, everything comes out. Everyone does their post-game stuff. They put out all the interviews. And then Tuesday and Wednesday, Thursday, there's nothing. And then we get going again on Friday. And I suppose for me, what I'd like to get is maybe the attendance does drop, but is that worth it if the overall product is people are following the storylines a bit more, they're talking about it a bit more on social media? What's the trade-off that kind of we'd be happy to make? I could live with the, less people coming on a Wednesday or Thursday if I'm continuing to get the same sort of traffic and buzz that I get online and socially. But again, that's me sitting, not owning an arena, not owning a team.
Yeah. I think that's the problem as well. Like, we're sitting here from a perspective where we don't actually know what the cash injection is, like, especially in a place like London where they've gone deep with the budget this year. It's pretty easy to speak on the outside, but like you say, you would like to see maybe something a bit more creative and trying to do something to maximise it. Yeah, I guess, I mean, even sitting here, it's tough, but I get what you mean, though, because there is that 3 days in the middle where you're kind of itching for something. Do you know where, like, with football, the drip feed a match all the time, depending on the competitions. And obviously with European competitions and basketball, that's the middle of the week. So I suppose that's where you get a bit of a tough thing.
Yeah.
But when you've got this break where there's no European basketball, I get what you mean. It's kind of just a dull 3 days, isn't it?
Yeah. And you're right, I suppose, the ENBL stuff, the Euro Cup stuff, well, that was still happening. That was Tuesday, Thursday, wasn't it? So in some ways that kind of bridges the gap between the two. I don't know. Scheduling is weird, man. I have like this real thing. So I know I'm going in a right rabbit hole talking about scheduling, but like scheduling, right? Leicester Riders, they're going to play 4 back-to-back weekends in March. Like they have 8 games where they're going to be playing Friday, Sunday, Friday, Sunday. They've played the least amount of games in the whole of SLB. Why? They're not playing in Europe. They're not doing anything. Like there's no reason for them to have played the least amount of games, and yet they've pushed everything into April, where they just have this back-to-back schedule. It's absolutely nuts. I don't know.
Yeah, I seen them tweet something like that. They called it March Madness. Then I looked and I was like, oh, that's a few league games for you. But as you haven't, to be fair, I do watch Leicester actually quite a bit because of Raekwon Battle. But it's one of them again. I'm actually not quite sure why. But again, we don't make the schedule, so it's one of them. Is the reasons why? It doesn't seem like there should be. If they're not in Europe, there should be a way to get around that, I think. Because 8 matches, obviously you do get that break, but that Friday and Sunday combination, I would imagine, especially on a hard surface like a basketball court, that you're going to feel that. And I wouldn't be surprised, especially at the end of the year where you've got the playoffs coming up, and it obviously looks like Caledonia and Newcastle, fingers crossed, Caledonia are going to drop out of it. You kind of think the teams in the middle, like Leicester, they want a fully fit squad, and that's what they need for a best chance. So to give them 8 games in March is it's rough. It's definitely rough going.
Well, I actually think I think it's April now. So they had more in March, and they've pushed back even more to April.
All right. Oh God.
Like the latest one is there was supposed to be a game on Wednesday, which they have pushed back to April. And the reason they cancelled it is administrative errors. The prevailing
I did see that, yeah.
The prevailing rumour online is that they've double booked themselves. Which is fine.
It happens a lot in this league, doesn't it?
Oh man, crazy. Let's get into Rumour Central, because I love a little bit of rumours. And this is something that is a story that I'm chasing hard. So if you're listening to this and you know something, hit me up, because I'm chasing it. But this is around British Championship basketball. Obviously, last year, British Championship Basketball broke away from the NBL. They gave up being Division 1 teams and moved to being BCB teams. I think there's going to be a big shake-up coming in the summer for BCB, and there are kind of 2 prevailing rumours. The first rumour is that BCB is going to go back to NBL, that they will be reabsorbed into National Basketball League. Everyone will shift down a league, and it will just be like a year that never really happens. We just won't see any more. The other side, though, is that there are a couple of teams that I've heard that are contemplating leaving NBL, what is now Division 1, to join the BCB. So they'll have even more teams next year.
Wow.
I think the most likely one is that teams leave. Like more teams are going to leave National Basketball League to go to the BCB. I think that's quite worrying for British basketball personally. If what were Division 2 teams a year ago are contemplating leaving the National Basketball League structure. It says a lot about what people think about Basketball England and what people think about, the league's ability to really get eyes on it and to be successful.
Yeah, I think the question you've probably, because I'm not big into BCB, I'm not going to sit here and pretend to be, because obviously it's a lot to watch. But when you hear about teams leaving one league to join another, it kind of makes you question the hierarchy that's running the show.
Yeah. And
I think that's kind of a common theme throughout British basketball at the minute, which is, it just worries us again, because it might not be that speculation, that's just guessing, but what are the benefits of moving from one league to another? There's obviously financial gain, which then you've got to wonder why the other league isn't getting as much exposure, and can they do more to get that out there? Or I guess, are they just leaving because they don't trust what's above them? They don't trust that that's sustainable, which again in itself is worrying. It's definitely one to keep your eye out for, though. But I would like to think, again, I don't watch BCB, but I quite like the branding and stuff of it. Like, it looked really cool at the start of the year, and I thought that's something that I could get into, but obviously I just haven't had the time. So I think it'll be a shame to drop it after a year, unless there's a real reason why not to. Like, if they've got to stop because of financials, then look, you don't want anybody running themselves into the ground. It would just be stupid.
Yeah.
But it'll be a shame to see something go bust after such a short amount of time.
I don't think they can. So it's like a rock and a hard place. Like, I don't think the BCB teams can go back to NBL. I just think that sends a really bad message that last year you thought we weren't good enough. Now you're coming back to us, and we're saying yes. Like, you can't, you're taking back someone who's no, I won't use that analogy, but but the teams are so wildly different. So, like, the Hoods here in Nottingham, I think they are making like real progress financially. Like, they've got like 5 or 6 major sponsors. They're doing really well in terms of like attendance. So that's someone you could say, like, actually they're working now outside the NBL structure, and it's working for them financially. You know, they're investing and they're growing. Bristol Flyers too. It's still free to go and see them. Like,
is it really?
Yeah, man.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So you can't make money, can you? Like,
yeah, that's one thing.
So it is a bit crazy. It is all that they can't go back. I just don't think they can go back. And to me, like you say, it's the more worrying thing is that more teams are thinking about leaving. So it just shows that the infrastructure's not there, the trust isn't there. And ultimately, what are we now classing as Division 1 basketball? Because already, dude, this is going to sound like such sour grapes, but I'm just going to like flip and say it, right? There are people who play in Division 1 who also play in my local league. Like, that shouldn't happen. Do you know what I mean?
Are you auditioning yourself for a BCB show?
No, dude. That's what I'm saying, man. I'm so far away from like a competent athletic basketball player right now. Do you know what I mean? Like, but the gap is just like, it's getting closer and closer between what's recreational basketball and what's National League. And I think ultimately that hurts our product, as opposed to what it could be, you know, with people moving up divisions and that structure working well. I don't know. Tough.
Yeah, it just finds out like they're still figuring out what they want to be, but there's chaos so much going on around them that they can't really figure that out. It is such a shame, because I think, like I say, at the start of the year, that looked like such an enticing product where it kind of, they had all the socials there. It seemed like they were pushing something good. The graphics and stuff, look, because that to me is really important, that they put things out there and they advertise, and everything they're putting out there looks professional. And that's coming from someone that Game of the Week looks like some child's drawn it up on Microsoft Paint or whatever they use these days. I don't know. But like, they looked really good, and I thought it really was enticing. Yeah, so like you said, though, but to go back and like look at you squirming back to other teams, it's not a great look. And then what do them teams say? They say, well, we stayed here, you go below us. And then obviously them teams have moved to a league where they think they should be above, and it just starts another civil war that nobody needs.
100%. And some really interesting things are happening as well. Like the Yorkshire Dragons, they've just announced that they're going to play at what was Leeds Beckett. I forget the name for it, but they're going to play at Leeds University. I think they've got like 700 seats that they're trying to sell out inside of Leeds University. So it's exciting for some of the teams inside BCB, like Yorkshire Dragons, that are doing stuff. And I think everyone is kind of reaching round for something, like in terms of what's next. I don't know if you've noticed, but the league has started, so I'm flitting around now, but just going back to Super League Basketball, the men's side, they've started promoting their YouTube channels a lot more, and they've started putting live games on their YouTube channel. And it's just got me thinking, why are they doing that? Is it because they need to prove their viewership? Is it because they're not getting enough eyeballs on it, and so they're trying to, you know, make it more accessible for people? Interested in your thoughts. Why do you think they're moving away from just using DAZN into using YouTube as well now?
It's possibly a good question because I know they've always done it with the women's games, so they've always been on there. And obviously, I don't know what the deal is with the zone. So, but I can't remember. Did they ever have? No, I think it's always been on YouTube. For the men's games, I can't say I've noticed that. But if that's what they're doing, then maybe it feels like they're saying what they can do on their own. Maybe they're saying what they can do on their own back and moving away from that partnership. The problem is with me, I don't really know how these commercial deals work, but are they maybe thinking they don't get enough views on DAZN? So maybe they're thinking, is it easier to access something that, because YouTube's free to everyone? Sure. And obviously the DAZN stuff is, but it's such an accessible app, like I can put on my television now and YouTube's there, whereas obviously maybe some people don't want to download the app for DAZN. I'm not quite sure, but it's definitely an interesting question because to move away from that, I would have thought that DAZN would have the rights to all the games like they kind of did last year where it didn't move away from that. So it maybe begs the question, maybe if they've got a capacity where they're only allowed to show so many games this year, is that what's happening when they've started? Maybe they're using up the allocation of games and they want to keep the eyeballs on it, so they put it on YouTube. Which games, out of interest, which games did they put on YouTube?
Yeah, so they started off with the SLB Cup semi-finals. So like both the Sunday games, the second legs were on there. And then they just put the Friday night game between London and Manchester and the Sunday game between Sheffield and Bristol on YouTube randomly.
That is unusual, though, because I've never heard... The problem is as well, and I like what Super League basketball do, but it is very... I don't want to say hidden because it's not, but do you know where they're not crystal clear with what they're saying? They're not They're not saying, this is why it's happening, don't worry.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know why they would, but it's got to be something. Maybe there's some kind of clash where they think they can get more eyeballs on, or maybe they have run out of an allocation of games. It's definitely a question to be asked because, like I say, my knowledge on that area is zero, but it's definitely weird to see that happen out of nowhere. It would be like the Premier League games on Sky suddenly appear on ITV, and you'd be like, well, why? Like, why is that happening? 100%. So, yeah, it's definitely a question to be asked.
Yeah, if they were completely happy with the viewership on DAZN, they wouldn't have made any changes. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
People getting the growth. The only thing that makes me think, though, is like... So I spoke to Bob Ballard, who does the play-by-play broadcast in Sheffield, and he said... And again, he's a broadcast commentator, do you know what I mean? He's not with the production team, he doesn't work for DAZN. But he seemed to think the viewership was up this year compared to last year, and that DAZN was really happy with what was happening. And those two things just like don't make sense to me. If viewership is increasing year on year, why are you changing your model to introduce? And it was the Sheffield Bristol one. Why are you putting a Sheffield Bristol Sunday game onto your YouTube channel? Like, fair enough, they did the trophy finals. That makes sense. It's a huge event. You want it to be as easy. It's going to be a draw. But like Sheffield Bristol, like, how many people are randomly Googling that and like coming across that? Like,
I know. And as well, if that's on a game on DAZN, like, because like I said with London, if I'm flicking through games, Sheffield, Bristol are kind of one where I'd go, actually, that's a really good matchup. That's what I'm going to watch. So you think that would be one that DAZN would want to hold on to, but yeah, like I say, I didn't even notice that it had been on YouTube, to be honest, but it is definitely interesting.
One to watch. But one thing we will be watching, though, is the best competition of the year is coming up. March Madness.
Yes. Yes.
I love March Madness up until the Sweet 16. Because, like, there's just so many games and so much crazy stuff that happens.
Mate, well, it's such a good time because when it starts, obviously you're starting with your SEC tournament, your Big 10 tournament, your Big 12. So do you know what makes it so good is that sometimes I genuinely forget what I'm watching because you don't even know where you are. You're like, oh, look who's playing, there's Duke playing, and you don't think it's in the ACC. So you're like, oh, I'll watch that. And then you flick over the next day and it's the SEC, and it's so confusing, but it's wonderful. It is just such a good time, especially with the men and women's side. It's side by side, so you can flick through channels and you're finding different games, and it's, oh, mate, I just love it.
It's the one time a year where suddenly I go absolutely mental for St. John's University. Do you know what I mean?
But you always get that Cinderella story. Like, you always get one team like that just comes through out of nowhere. And that's what you're always rooting for. You want an underdog. You don't want the top seeds to go and win the whole thing. But, honestly, I'm so Wednesday, I think. Wait, what is it? It's Tuesday, right? Yeah, it's Tuesday. So that's when everything properly kicks off, and I cannot wait.
Dude, it's going to be awesome. I absolutely love it. Have you got any... Because I do not watch college basketball as religiously as you. I kind of know roughly who's coming to the draft. BYU, they
BYU are going to drop off. I think they might be, because the AP pools change all the time. And for anyone that doesn't know what the AP pools are, that is what a committee selects, and it's not just how many games they win, it's how good the wins are, but sometimes it's how bad the losses are, how good the losses are, as stupid as that sounds. Like if you're playing a really safe BYU, who were 19th seed, were playing Duke, who's number 1 at the minute in the men's. If they're lost by 2 points or by a buzzer beater, that's not considered a bad loss. That means that people think they're going to make an effort in the tournaments. So they're going to get pumped up. Well, they're going to get kept in the tournament and they're going to get a higher seeding, or they will in the AP pools. BYU have not got a chance. And it's so stupid because they've got 3 amazing scorers. And obviously that's led by AJ Dibonsa, he kind of reminds us of VG Edgecombe a bit, but more, he's
blaming way too hard on VJ, bro.
Oh, but you know the stupid thing is, he's a more polished version, because if you look at the way they played in college, it's really similar. But if you watched VG at the start of the year for the Sixers, his shot wasn't there, his pull-up shot wasn't there. He played in Abu Dhabi against New York, and it wasn't that exciting. You didn't think he was going to do much. AJ kind of has that. He's got the length, he's got the athleticism, he can pull up, he can shoot. And at the minute, he's my pick for the number 1, personally.
Yeah.
BYU, I don't know, they've got the trio of scorers, but I'm not quite sure if they can push the number 1 spot and go all the way. I would probably edge on them not doing that.
I have no comeback because I know so little about who's there. But whoever's the 32 seed, give me that team. I'll back that.
Well, Duke have just went top, and Duke is such an interesting team because obviously Cooper Flagg came from there last year, and then they've got Cameron Boozer this year. And Cameron Boozer is an amazing player, and for some reason everybody writes him off, because you've got Darren Peterson, who's for Kansas. He's barely played, and there's a conversation I had it on my podcast with Josh Sexton, who he said himself he doesn't watch the college game religiously, but he knows Darren Peterson, like the player and how he plays, and he's such a good player. If the Indiana Pacers drafted him, it would be amazing. The problem is he's either injured or he doesn't want to play, and at this point it's affecting his draft stock either way. You've got a lot of people sticking up for him saying, well, you know, it's not the mentality. If you knew the kid, you wouldn't question that. And I've said I want to believe that personally.
Yeah.
But in your one and done year in college, when you are such a fantastic talent, all you're doing, for me personally, is tanking that draft stock, because if you are genuinely that injury prone, then you've got a problem. So it becomes a point where it doesn't matter if it's mentality, it doesn't matter if it's injury, you're not on the court and you're not playing. And if anything, it's ruined Kansas's chances, because he comes on, plays one half, drops 20 points, and then you don't see him again for the rest of the game, and Kansas will drop and lose the game.
Yeah.
So it's a weird one.
If you're having to load manage at 19, like there's quite some issues, bro. It's like,
and this is my thing, like it's such a stacked draft class. Like I see a Cameron Boozer who does get a lot of crap for no reason. He's a sensational talent. He's a good scorer. He's got some work to do maybe with his outside shooting, where he works on the outside, but that's not his game. And then you've obviously got such a deep backcourt selection. I don't think he's doing himself any favours, because naturally he will be the first guard out the draft. But if you're a franchise, you look and you go, this is where we've got the chance to pick 5 or 6 fantastic backcourt, really good guard selections. Do you want to risk it on a player that could be injured, like you see a load managing at 19? Is that something you want? And load managing, by the way, for flu, that's also really worrying. I don't know. Like, if that's me, I would at least go out there and try and play with flu. And I know that's not great when you've had pandemics and stuff, God, but I would maybe go and try and play with flu, because that's your 1 year. Like, you've worked so hard to get that moment. You've gone in high school, you're a 5-star recruit. You're coming out of high school to Kansas, which is a good ranked team, and they've got a history of being a good ranked team. And then you just not decide because we don't know, but if you've got flu and you're like, actually, I'm not feeling it today, coach, I'm going to sit. I don't know if that's the player I'm drafting.
That's why you should be the number 1 pick, Nathan, because you would never sit out the flu. You would.
See, I think what stops us is being like 5'1" and about 30 stone. I think that's what really stops us.
Oh man, March Madness coming up. Are you going to do the bracket?
Yes. I've started me tournament brackets, and that is madness. But the NCAA tournament, I think everyone should do one, because even if you don't know college basketball, you're going to find your teams and you're going to be looking every day to see where they get through. Will you be doing one?
100%, bro. Yeah, last time there was I can't remember who, but someone set up a like a bracketology one that you could all go and see. But yeah, I'm 100% going to do it. I love doing it. I love. It's
I
like,
think, do you know what it is? I think everyone does, because I speak to a lot of people and they say, obviously with the college games, it's a lot because you've got your out-of-conference games where the colleges decide who they're playing, and some of them games aren't great. Then you've got your conference games where you're kind of forced to play each other. So in the SEC, say in the women's, for instance, you've got South Carolina, LSU, Vanderbilt. You've got a lot of them kind of teams that are really good ranked teams, so you don't get that choice of playing. So that's where it gets more competitive. But there's so many sporadic games and that, like, such crazy hours of the morning, nobody really wants to make that effort to watch. But as soon as you move to the NCAA tournament and they've got a bracket there, people just switch on and they're like, well, you know where the talent's going to be, and all of these games mean something. And it's pretty hard not to watch.
dude, and there's something just magical. I know we glazed over this when we did the Trophy Cup preview, but like fixed bracket, one game, everything on the line, anything can happen. It's just.
Well, exactly. You know my feeling about aggregate scores, and if you're not getting a Cinderella story in aggregate scores. So that's what makes, like you say, there's a bracket and it's live or die. Like, win, you're staying on. Not that's your whole. For some people, that's their whole college career done because they stay. Well, on the men's side, for the women's side, you've got to stay in for 4 years. I think you've got to be 21 or 22 to get declare for the draft. But for the men's, you'll be one and done. So you might go in that tournament, get knocked out by the Sweet 16, and that's it. That's you done. Like, some people don't even get to touch the Final Four, which is crazy.
Oh, final thought. If Utah get the number 1 pick, can we just investigate Ryan Smith for tampering right now?
Yeah, that's BS. This tanking thing is so annoying. If Utah get it after the active, have you seen that they've literally sent? I think it's Markkanen. They've sat in the literally
G League, bro. He's just to get his reps in.
Adam Silver's sending his own NBA doctor to check him out. That's how bad the tanking's getting. They're sending independent doctors. If they get number 1 pick, I will be furious.
I think they will. I really think they will. Like, it's just in the, especially like Ryan Smith paid for him to go to the prep school in Utah, pays for him to go to BYU. You know, how can Utah not get the number 1 pick and draft AJ?
If they get AJ as well, I'll be furious. I can't even tell you.
He's been paying him already for the last 5 years. Like, you might as well get him in the draft as well. Like.
I would hate it. An Ace Bailey and AJ matchup, it's nuts, isn't it? It's
Ace Bailey is rubbish, bro. I'm so done with Ace Bailey. He was such a waste.
I haven't watched him much this year, and I surprisingly saw him put up some points, and I was really like, well, I wasn't quite sure. So I'll have to actually watch it. It's the one player, because I refuse to watch Utah. I just refuse it. I'm not watching people try and be. It's so hypocritical because I watched the 76ers last year tanking.
Yeah.
And you can say they didn't, but they definitely did. And I was enjoying it because I was like, we gotta get a good pick. We can get a good pick. But now someone else is doing it. I'm like, oh, this is terrible. This is not a way to play basketball.
Oh, you wait till Newcastle puts on a Wednesday game at 3:30 on the show court, and you're like, yes, this is a great idea.
Take the day off work.
Oh man, love that. Dude, this has been awesome, just chatting about all sorts of stuff. And obviously, for people, they know you as Britstone Jump, but you've made like a pretty significant shift recently, right, for the show and what's going to happen in the future for Britstone Jump.
Yeah, so obviously the idea of Britstone Jump was always, well, it started just like a little portfolio to write, and then it started going better, and then I started doing other gigs that like paid, and then I was like, well, I can use that money to kind of start a podcast and network, because obviously that was one thing I wasn't very good at. And then it kind of took shape of just a basketball podcast. And then now I think it is going well, and I'm really enjoying it. It's getting more views than that, especially on Spotify, than I ever thought it would. But there's just something about the women's game where, and I'm changing solely to women's, so it'll be Women's Basketball Weekly, and it's going to be rebranded as that, because there's just certain frustrations, and it's not just in our league, it's throughout the women's game where I feel like nothing's got substance. Like, we'll put on a good show, and this is just women's sport altogether. We'll put on a show that we'll want to develop and we'll want it to help. And the execution just isn't there, and sometimes it's just down to lack of effort, and that's all it is. It's a reality. Like, people don't want to try and grow it. They want to put it out there like these people that love the game and they've got the money there and they want to help it. And the same old excuses come out, like finances and viewership. And it's like, well, at some point, if you genuinely want it to grow, if you genuinely believe in it, you're going to have to take some losses and hard times, and that's fair. And that's where my frustration comes from, because there's people out there that could be doing more, and I know for a fact, like, I know definitely they could be doing more. And I guess it's just kind of where that point where I want to actually physically, if I'm speaking these words, I want to like put it into action myself. And I love the women's game. I watch it more than the men's, if I'm honest, at this point. Even with the college basketball, I watch a lot of the men's, but I love watching the women's game. I think it's fantastic. I think it's got this reputation for being slow and not physical. And it's just absolute crap. Like, it's just not, it's not true. Like, you've got to, if you sit down and watch it. And I remember when I first watched women's sport, to be honest, it was in the 2012 Olympics with Eni Aluko, who's causing a bit of a stir at the minute. And that kind of caught my imagination a bit. But then I went to watch Sunderland women play, and they were playing at Eppleton, which is a ground where Sunderland reserves would train and play. And I was like, oh, well, it wasn't at the standard. Well, the standard wasn't great, because the Sunderland had a really good team, and they were playing Barnet, who had no funding. And I was like, oh, that's a bit disappointing. And then you kind of take it that that's just what the women's game is. And then when you look deeper and do a bit of research yourself, it's not that. It's the opportunities they're being given. And yes, not everyone's going to like it. It's not going to be everyone's cup of tea. And that's fine. Nobody's saying you've got to watch it. But if you're refusing to watch it on what you've heard, or what you're refusing to hear, or you're not giving it a chance, then it's just stupidity. And at the end of the day, it's sport. And these women put a lot of time and effort into this. Like, some of these might still be working. We're talking about these people who go to university and they're taking jobs up and they're playing. And certain people aren't giving it even the minimum effort of just giving them the basics and the opportunities and the foundation. And the more you look into it, the more you'll realise it is morally wrong. These aren't people who are saying, and there are a couple who are out there who are saying they should be paid exactly the same amount. That's not what they're asking for. They're asking for equal opportunities and just the normal rights. And as much as you say, yes, that's what they're getting now, you know, they're on the court, they're on YouTube, and what this and that, the other. I promise you, look deeper, and you'll find out pretty quickly that their opportunities are restricted and they're not being granted the access that other people are. And it's not right, because some of it is, like I say, it's basic effort. So I've really dribbled on there, but I just get really frustrated with it. But that's what the podcast is going to be. It's going to be opportunities, and I'm trying to reach out there and get interviews with certain people. And we've got Grant from the SLB show, who does a fantastic job with Caledonia. We've had Rona on, who does Caledonia are great for the women's game. Grant and Rona have done a great job. I've had Rona on before, Rona Lightbody. If you go back and listen, she is a wealth of knowledge. She's it's just funny as well. She's very funny. Grant's the same. He puts a lot of time into it. Who's from the SLB show, so he knows his stuff. And I'm just going to keep reaching out there for interviews, see what we can get. And if I can't get an interview, I'm happy to bore everyone by myself, come on and do a recap of the week. But I just think there's just a time and a place to put in a bit of effort, and the women's game, like 1,000% deserves it, because, like I say, you see games out there that are so boring and dull, and the women's game isn't that, and they just deserve that little bit extra, and that's exactly what I want the podcast to start being.
Yeah, I love that, man. And I think it's really good that you're giving a voice and helping to shape that voice for kind of women's sport and women's basketball. And if you're listening to this, the best thing you can do to kind of support it is go follow Nathan on Spotify, give it a 5-star rating. You know, actively, you know, don't just listen to it, but, you know, comment on it, share it, talk about it. You know, it's on us as fans to kind of take these things and run with it and really make a buzz. And I think really, really lift it up.
Yeah, and I think as well, just sorry for interrupting if you were going to, for me, we make such a big song and dance about growing British basketball, and that's not just like one step, like it's everything. It should be all linear. Like, British basketball isn't one game, it's not one team, it's a collective effort, and we've seen, and it happens time and time again, where you're so angry about what's happened to these men's team, and we've seen the political landscape of what the British basketball game is. Just remember, there's actually worse people off than that. There's people getting paid worse, and there's people putting just as much time in. And they deserve the outrage that you're giving the men, because you've got to remember, these are people's careers, and these are people who are working the whole lives. And they're not just working the whole lives, but they've had to work a lot harder, and they've had to go through a lot more. Trust us, because I've spoken to some of them, and some of the ridicule they went for throwing a bag of air about the court is ridiculous. The amount of stuff they got where they were playing basketball, and they might have had to join in with a boys' team, and they were being laughed at for playing sport. Like, that's what they've had to put up with. And it just kind of gets forgotten a bit. Like, I feel like people put that to one side because now they're getting opportunities. Like, these are women who have fought for a lot. And especially when we talk about Vanessa Ellis and Betty Cordona, like, they fought for a lot. And I just think it deserves a lot more effort than we're currently giving it.
That feels like the perfect note to end on, man. And I totally back you. So make sure you follow Nathan. Make sure you're part of it. I think it's really exciting. And dude, we spent like 40 minutes chewing at the top talking about women's basketball. Like,
see, it's there. It's interesting.
Awesome, bro. And let us know. Hopefully, me and Nathan are going to be linking up like this every month, chewing the fat on a lot of different topics, which I think will be really, really good. So, leave something down. Leave down in the comments. What do you want to see? What do you want to talk about? We're up for everything and anything. Nothing is off the table. Nathan, it's been awesome having you, mate. And I'll catch you in the next one. Peace, guys.